So we begin our exploration into gender pay inequality. This is a big, complex, hairy topic, and so we'll handle it in a couple of different parts. And it's important as we go to focus on the system rather than individual culpability. It's no use getting defensive about any of this. After all, we all live in a system. You didn't cause it, I didn't cause it. As Verna Myers says in her TED Talk, we were all outside when the contamination came down. So let's turn our focus to the system and the causes of that system's gender and pay inequality. So if we were sitting together in class, I would have you do this warm-up. So let's take a minute and I will time you. Write just as quickly as you can, or think about this as quickly as you can. What are the penalties for not living up to your gender's norms and expectations? Ready, go. "30 seconds. "10 seconds. And stop, although you're welcome to continue to write more, of course. And the purpose of that is getting us all in touch with the reality that there is some sort of gender norm expectation on us. And we are wondering, are women's gender norms a cause of the pay gap? So the structure that we'll take is, in this very complex and broad topic that we do not yet have all the way solved, is to take it in some chunks. And this is not an exhaustive list, but this goes through some of the main theories about why this gender pay gap exists, why men on average earn 20% more than women. So we'll look first at gendered cultural expectations that you just did a quick write on. Then we'll look at sort of discrimination, which is attached to gendered cultural expectations as well. Then we'll look at the standard neoclassical view of wages. This is the economists' arguments that it's all about human skill, education, and job sorting. That explains it all. And then there's the access issues, like women perhaps have differential access, or did historically, to education, credit, nutrition, and legal protection. Again, complex topic. Let's think about the system overall. Here we go. I find it helpful in these complex topics to sort of take a look at some data. So here's some data here. Mothers more than fathers experience career interruptions. You can see the different differential sort of jobs that women and men do to care for the family. And this can extend beyond what you normally think, to quitting the job or turning down a promotion even. Now go ahead and answer this to yourself, or maybe even if somebody's in the room with you, a family member, loved one, ask them. Discuss it if you like. And depending on your age, most younger people will gravitate towards B, maybe A. As we get a little bit older, it's A. Very few people answer C. But even those of us that answer B, we're finding, especially in the COVID crisis, that actually the data look pretty old-fashioned as far as gender roles in the house. Notice a slight change in wording for this question. The last one was caregivers. This one is house cleaners. So who's responsible for the cleanliness of the house? Think about that for a minute. Again, most younger people gravitate between A and B. As we get older, those generations tended to answer A. Again, very few people answer C. Okay, so one of the theories about why this gender pay gap exists comes from Claudia Golden, and we're considering her interview this week. So the idea of temporal flexibility, that means time flexibility, jobs that have high amounts of flexibility where you can take off to go take a kid to the dentist, that has high temporal flexibility. A job that does not allow you to pop off whenever you want has low temporal flexibility. And it probably won't surprise you that jobs with low temporal flexibility tend to have higher pay than jobs with high temporal flexibility. And if you've got gender expectations for one partner to be in charge of these things, which are really unpredictable in timing, and the other partner does not, has obviously other expectations, but not those particular really unpredictable expectations, then we think you're going to see this sorting into jobs so that this partner seeks jobs with high temporal flexibility that don't pay very well, and the other partner seeks jobs that don't need temporal flexibility, and they tend to be higher pay. And of course, the question could come up, why do those jobs pay more and why do those other jobs pay less? And that's a bigger question for another time. It's quite possible that it links back to gender roles and norms. To wit, I will quote from the article mentioned below, Even Breadwinning Wives Don't Get Equality at Home, from The Atlantic in 2019. Quote, breadwinning wives also don't get parity in how household chores are divvied up. As wives' economic dependence on their husbands increases, women tend to take on more housework. But the more economically dependent men are on their wives, the less housework they do. Even women with unemployed husbands spend considerably more time on household chores than their spouses. In other words, women's success in the workplace is penalized at home. End quote. There's some food for thought, and if you'd like to dive into the research, please see that article. And we'll move on, but not too far away, because here's another look at that gendered norms. So in the Mulanithan article for this week, we look at single female MBA students when they thought their peers and presumably potential mates would see their answers. They said they wanted a job with fewer hours per week and a smaller salary. They also toned down their desire for leadership role and ambitions. And of course, it's worth noting that we are talking about powerful women here. And in some related and strange data that you'll look at, women are incentivized to get moderately good grades, whereas men are incentivized to get higher grades and are rewarded for it. Women, you might want to pause right here and rethink your whole strategy. And in some more data on house cleaning and home chores, there's an article in our reading, Women are still expected to be the cleaners and are penalized for not doing so. Here's some data about how much they spend. And when men say they split housework evenly, the data shows that they do not. Let's be better, people. And what is going on in this last one? Women do more of these kinds of chores in the office too. So you may be wondering, is this all down to us and our choosing and our behavior, what we're putting on each other for expectations? Perhaps. But also there's this other reality that rising returns to working long hours. It used to be that the longer houred, greedy professions paid relatively worse. But starting up in the mid-90s, we see that the premium or the extra pay for those kinds of jobs rose, right? It's actually rising since the 80s, but now these jobs earn above average, where it used to be they earned below average. And there is, of course, good reason to ask what this does to gender roles at home if somebody is gone all the time and is less available for housework. Does this reinforce older gender stereotypes? And you're wondering what kind of jobs these are? Many of you will be in these jobs. It's most extreme in managerial and the what we call greedy professions that seek exclusive and undivided loyalty. After the COVID-19 crisis, these firms may be in a stronger bargaining position and may be able to ask for more of this. But listen, overwork has become increasingly common in more jobs, accounting, IT, Any job where someone's manager stays late or sends emails on weekends and expects everybody else to follow suit. So we may not like this turn of events, but we want to understand why it's happening and whether it will continue or if it may reverse. So technology is one reason for the change, right? Workers are now more easily reachable. I feel this every single day, right? You probably do as well. So business has become more global. There's evidence, some arguments that maybe this trend will reverse after the COVID-19 pandemic has passed, as countries decouple from globalization. And a lot of this is much larger trends at play. The widening gap between the highest and lowest earners and the changing nature of jobs. Just more jobs are unstable. And many of these jobs are just more competitive. You get an advanced degree, your job is probably going to look like make partner or leave, what we call up or out. So long hours have become a status symbol. They're what's required to get partner or whatever status you're looking for. And in this class, you're no stranger to the idea that as firms get larger and more concentrated, larger and larger corporations, they can ask for that kind of behavior and get it. So focusing on the systemic impact of changing nature of jobs and gender norms on the types of jobs we take and require can be really helpful.